Vice President of HaikuDeck and also Chief Inspiration Officer.
So, how are you, Catherine?
I'm great. I'm calling in from Seattle today, across the country.
Oh, it looks like it's morning over there.
It is. So it's just a little before lunchtime. We're having our team lunch in a bit. Just getting on with our day.
Yeah. So our first question is, how did you get involved with HaikuDeck, and why do you believe in this company?
Sure. So I'm actually really close friends with the founder of HaikuDeck, and we worked together for a number of years at a company called Cranium. I don't know. Have you ever heard of the Cranium game?
Yeah.
So that's a non-tech company, actually, but it's one of Seattle's most famous companies over the past 10 years. So we had our offices right next to each other, and we always really enjoyed working together. And so after Cranium sort of closed down here in Seattle, our CEO, Adam, my friend, we'd kind of keep in touch and say, hey, what are you working on? What's going on? And he was working on a couple of very different business ideas. And I'll tell you the story of one of them because it's kind of funny. They're originally trying to do a celebrity-focused social media game on Facebook, and they worked with a local celebrity, Sir Mix-a-Lot. Do you know Sir Mix-a-Lot?
Yeah.
At all? He had a kind of famous song a long time ago, and that just didn't work out. I helped them with that a little bit, and they were doing something totally different around video hangouts. And then he showed me about 3 years ago. We were out. This was for his birthday. We were at a karaoke place, and he said, "Hey, I want to show you what we're looking at, what we're working on." And I said, "Okay." And he pulled out his phone and he started showing me how you could build a presentation with, you would type in the words and then it would pull up the images, and it was like really cool. It just was so neat. And I said, wow, that's really, really interesting. And so we started working together on that, and I really loved what they were doing because it takes this experience that everybody has to do. Now, when I was your age, we didn't make PowerPoints or presentations in school, but I bet you do now. Do you do a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot. Yeah, like
Every
class, pretty
class,
much, yeah.
Every class, right? And definitely when when you're in the working world, it's really common. Everybody makes these presentations, but they, the tools really aren't. They don't really help you feel more creative. And I always wanted my PowerPoints to look nicer and to be more beautiful and be more visual, and I just really didn't have the tools to do that. So I really just love this promise and the technology behind it, and also thinking about it from a mobile experience, from being able to do it on your iPad or your phone, was really exciting. So that's how I originally got involved with the team, because I was really wowed by what he showed me on his phone at the karaoke club.
Yeah. And is that what really keeps you there at HaikuDeck?
So what keeps me here is, so my job is really to teach people not only how to use HaikuDeck, but why to use HaikuDeck. And I think it's kind of similar to what you're trying to do with your tutorials, right? Yeah. You're doing a lot of teaching and explaining and showing people what you can do. Mm-hmm. So, and also to build a real sense of community and to try to get to know our users all around the world. So one of the really, really cool things about my job is I get to see all the creative ways that people are using this tool. So, when we developed it, we sort of had in mind it would mostly be for business people. But then we started seeing how many students were using it, and teachers, and in all different subjects. Just like you guys said on your review of HaikuDeck, you can use it in math, history, literature. So I've kind of learned from our community the different things you can do with the tool, and then that gives us ideas of how to make it better. So, I have first graders using HaikuDeck to make very simple presentations, and then we have the Chief Technical Officer of Australia. He uses HaikuDeck to give talks about the future of IT infrastructure, and it's really interesting to think about all those different kinds of people and what their needs are, and to see what they create. So there's a lot of it's a really fun challenge to think about all those different audiences and see what they're doing and what we can learn from them. And it's a fun team to work with too. It's just a small, there's only about 10 people who work here, and we have a lot of fun. And there's a lot of Kevin, the other co-founder, is just a really brilliant engineer who he'll just come up with these things, and it's like, wow, that's amazing. The same way that when I first saw those images coming up, it was like, that's really cool. So the innovation is exciting too.
Yeah, HaikuDeck really helps everyone to make presentations easier.
Yeah. My mom's actually a 5th grade teacher in the town, and she was the one who really got me interested in HaikuDeck. And she's like, "Oh, can you teach me how to use this?" Because she really doesn't know technology, and it was so easy for her to learn. And she really liked all the images and stuff because that's what she wanted for her kids, to do an image-based project.
Yeah,
so
great.
She was so excited.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine.
It really inspires too. So speaking of inspiration, you're the Chief Inspiration Officer for HaikuDeck.
Yeah.
So what really inspires you, other than inspiring others?
Well, from a technology perspective, I really like and admire apps and pieces of software that are really beautifully designed and very simple and intuitive. So I'm always sort of looking for websites or apps that just have that sort of the simplicity and the great user experience. So that I always kind of like to pull out examples and look through it through that lens. But I think I find just using HaikuDeck to be very inspiring. And of course you would expect me to say that, but it's really true. I couldn't work here if I didn't really believe and love the product. So I have found that when I have an idea that I want to communicate, sometimes when I start searching for images and it'll pop up an image that gives me an idea for how to communicate my idea better. So it sort of helps my thinking process. And I create a ton of HaikuDecks. I do a lot. I do a lot for the company. I actually do them outside of the company too. And I just love sort of thinking metaphorically and thinking of ideas that help you explain something to your audience. So I just find it a very fun, creative process. And Kevin, who originally invented the technology behind it, he said that he designed HaikuDeck to help people find their creative flow, which is not how most presentation tools really come at it. They sort of it's more about the functionality and the features, and we're just trying to help people get in a more creative mindset.
Oh, cool. We saw that you started a new program called HaikuDeck Zuru.
Yeah.
And we're wondering how that differs from the regular HaikuDeck and how that furthers the inspiration process.
Great. Yeah, we just announced that a couple weeks ago. So again, I mentioned Kevin a couple times. He's always got something up his sleeve, and this is something that we've been building towards and working for since we began. And so to try to I'm going to practice what I preach here. You want to simplify it. So really what we're trying to do is make the process even faster and more accurate using all the data that we have collected from all the presentations that have been created, millions of different slides and presentations that people have been created. So every time people do that, every time someone searches for an image and then they select a word and those go together, that gives us data that helps us predict what other people might want to do, or helps us like interpret their content better. So so what Zuru will do is allow people to upload a like a PowerPoint, maybe that's kind of rough or not very pretty or visual, or an outline from Evernote. You kind of like collect your thoughts and write your outline. It can upload it, and then it uses artificial intelligence and all that data that we've been gathering to go through and like create your haiku deck and select images for you and understand the words that you type to help make that process faster. So, you know, you can still go through and kind of tweak and make things better. And I think it's probably, this one definitely is aimed more at business users, where it's hard for them. It's hard for people to carve out time to learn a new tool, and they don't have Rocket's help desk to help them, right? They just have to, you know, figure it out. So a lot of people just use PowerPoint because that's what they're very used to. So, you know, it's really, HaikuDeck, as you know and use it, will still be there, still be free, all of that. Zuru is the first time we're asking people to subscribe to this different type of service, to be able to upload a PowerPoint, transform it, and then actually download it back, take it back into PowerPoint, and even edit it right there, which you can't do now. So it's more technology behind the scenes, and pretty exciting. Do you have questions about that? Because I'm practicing how to explain this to people. So what's clear? What do you have questions about? What is confusing? You can help me.
I don't have any. Yeah, I don't have any questions either. You explained it very well.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems really interesting, and I feel like it really simplifies the process between making a presentation and making it more visually appealing.
Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah, just to make it faster, because especially when you're working, people don't have a lot of time, and people spend a lot of time creating presentations. They're just not always good. So, yeah, I don't know how teachers are going to feel about Zuru, though.
Yeah,
I think they want you to go through that creative process, which makes sense. Yeah.
And so, on to the next question. Moving away from HaikuDeck, it's kind of. So, did your experience in school affect your future aspirations? Like, did any teachers, classes, or assignments like really change the way you think?
So this may be different from some other people you've talked to in the tech industry, but I always knew I wanted to be a writer. So I had really great writing teachers in high schools, especially, and that's just something that I've always enjoyed and have been pretty good at. And so, you know, after I graduated from college and I moved to Seattle, I ended up getting a job at Microsoft. Now, most people who work at Microsoft have a computer background or technical background, and they hired me because I was working on this is, you probably can remember this, but they used to create these products called Encarta that was like, you know, encyclopedia on a CD-ROM, and it was very multimedia, and at the time it was pretty cool. And so they needed people who could write and be creative. And so that gave me kind of some experience working in a tech company, but still using the skills that I had learned. And I majored in English in college, so I kept with that, you know, the communication and the writing. And now working in marketing, really what I'm trying to do is explain things really clearly, convince people to do something. It's all of those skills that you learn when you're writing a persuasive essay, right? Or just being creative, or being clear. So all of those writing skills have definitely played into the different jobs that I've had and the things that I really love doing. So I've kind of keep pushing how I can keep doing things more creatively, you know, getting inspiration from different sources and so on. But I think that did really take hold when I was your age, probably.
Cool. And so I know you're saying that most people have backgrounds in computers and all that kind of stuff, and major in like computer science, whatever, in college. But since you took a different path, I was just wondering if you think what you think about kids wanting to work in technology after high school and like what path they should take.
Oh yeah, you know, I think I wish I had learned how to code. I learned a little bit of coding, but I think I would like it actually. So you know, when I worked as an editor in Cranium, what you're doing is trying to sort of lay out a framework for the kinds of content writing you want, and like trimming away everything that doesn't fit. And I think coding is really kind of similar. You have to be really detailed and also more creative than I think people realize. So I'd love that there seem to be a lot more opportunities and programs for kids to try that and play around with it and learn it. And if it's your thing, that's great. But I think my advice is that it's not the only way in, right? Because companies need all kinds of skills. So they need people to build those programs, but they also need people like me to be able to explain how they work. Because sometimes you'll find, you know, people who are really, really good at the coding, they get very close to it, and sometimes it's not as natural for them to be able to say, oh, here's how you can use it, or here's, not always, I'm generalizing here, but I'm just saying you need any company needs lots of different skills. And so I think just trying to find those things that feel really fun to you and just feel like you, and then there's always a way to kind of shape that in the direction that you want to go, I think. So, and then, you know, there are other people who work here who are like really, really great at helping people solve their support issues like you do, right? People write in with tons of questions. Oh, we had trouble with this. We can't understand that. And you know this. You have to be really patient and really listen well and really helpful. And we couldn't operate as a company without, you know, Aaron and Lisa who do that. And, you know, we have our CEO, Adam, who he's not from a technical coding background, but he is great at building business relationships and helping us, you know, run the business and communicate what we're doing. So there are a lot of different skill sets here, even working in this very tech-focused startup. So yeah, there's not just one way. But I also think I do kind of wish I learned how to code. Maybe I still could.
It's never too late.
Yeah.
It's not too late, right?
Coding can be fun too. And so moving on from that, you mentioned earlier that when you were in high school, you did make presentations and use technology like that. Do you wish now that you had that opportunity? Like, do you think that tech integration should be a normal part of school activity?
You know, I love seeing the creative ways that students use technology. My belief is that it's not the technology itself, it's how you're using it. So I've seen examples of people kind of using technology just to say they used it, or that sometimes to me doesn't really feel like rich creative learning. But I've also seen it open up really cool ways of thinking, and I really just think it depends on the situation. So you know, I'm thinking I have a daughter who's in 6th grade, and it's been really cool to see what her experience is like. She does almost all of her homework at the computer, but last night she was drawing. It was really cool. She had to describe how a cell works, and she made this drawing of Disneyland. In her mind, Disneyland was like a cell, and she had to describe, you know, I'm not going to get the terminology right, but the janitors are like this part of the cell because they clean out the trash. Like, it was really creative and cool, and I suppose it's not that you couldn't do that on technology, but I love that she was using both, right? She was learning her skills, but then she was applying them, and she's very artistic, and I think just drawing, it's really, she was having so much fun making this poster. So to me, it's really finding that feeling of inspiration and fun, no matter what the tool, or you know, you can always find that in different ways. So I like both.
Do you wish you had it back when you were in high school, or?
You know, it's hard. It's funny. It's a good question, and I'm just trying to think. I'm sure I would have enjoyed having some of those tools, but I also feel like I learned what I need to learn, and you know, I'm glad that we have them now.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. I think it's also interesting, and you won't have this experience, but I think it's interesting that I can look back and think how different things were and how much they've changed. You'll have it in a different way than I've had it.
Yeah.
Like I can think about when I had to write papers in college and I had to sit down with a typewriter, and then yeah, I really wished I didn't have to do that because it just took long. Like that was silly. Or I couldn't Google something. We had to go to the library. It's crazy. So there's certain things that's like, oh yeah, that would have been a lot easier. But there's other ways in which I think sometimes technology can distract you from the real thinking and creativity that you need. So I think like I can kind of have perspective on. It makes me sound incredibly old, but yeah, like when I went to college, if you wanted to research something, you had to get off your butt and go to the library and like dig through the stacks, and really different. Really different. So I'm glad that I don't have to do that now. And it's going to just keep evolving. But anyway, you're just growing up with it all around you, which is cool.
Yeah, people got lazier. You don't have to go to the library anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. The librarians are some of the coolest most tech savvy people that I meet. I mean, they have it going on. Really good, cool librarians. I love that. I love how they've evolved their profession, really, to not just be about books, but to be about learning and discovery. It's really valuable.
It's really interesting. The librarians at our school actually know a lot about tech too, and they help us out sometimes.
Yeah. It's which is not how people necessarily think of them, but I've seen that for a long time. So we have a lot of librarians who are really passionate about HaikuDeck, and they get it, and it's cool. I love that.
We're almost done with our questions. We just have one more, but it's a little unrelated.
That's okay.
So you've traveled a lot, and you've lived all over the place, right?
Oh, did you look at my HaikuDeck?
Yeah. And I was just wondering, how have your adventures kind of made you the person you are? Like, has it changed your world in any sort of way?
That's great. Definitely. I mean, here's an example where, through technology, it's really cool that you could look at a place in Google Maps, or you could look at pictures of it or watch videos of it. Like, that's really amazing. So it kind of makes you feel that you can experience a place, which is definitely better than not. But there's really nothing like being in the place and interacting with people. I mean, it's really fun that I can talk to you from across the country. That's so cool. But I wish I were sitting in the room with you, because it's different, right? It's different to meet people. And so, I'm trying to give a couple of examples for perspective. So when I was in college, I studied English, as I said, and I also studied art history. I was really interested in art history, and I loved looking at all the pictures and reading the books. And again, if I had technology, I would have had digital images that I've been looking at, but it's really powerful to go and stand in front of a huge sculpture and really see it and feel how big it is. There's nothing like doing that. You can't, technology cannot, it can give you a taste of what the experience is like. So, but it's very powerful. So I really have a lot of great memories of those types of experiences, and also living in Colombia. So I studied Spanish. Do you guys study languages at your school?
Yeah, I studied Spanish.
Yeah, I studied French.
Yeah, so I took Spanish for 4 years in high school, and I was pretty good at it. I think, writing and the verbal skills. But I hadn't really had an opportunity to apply it in that way. So my now husband and I, we went and lived in Bogota, Colombia for several months, and we lived in a household where people spoke different languages, and our only common language was Spanish. We had to speak Spanish. It was so hard. It was so hard.
Yeah, you learned a lot that way, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I really learned. I feel like that's where I really learned Spanish. So I had a good background. I knew how to conjugate verbs, and I knew vocabulary, and my pronunciation was good. But that was the only way that I could really learn Spanish, and that was a long time ago. And it's still in there. It's not as good as when I lived there, but I can have a conversation with someone who speaks Spanish because I was in that experience. So that kind of immersion is really valuable, and I'm glad that we took the opportunity to do that. And it's harder now. We have kids in school, so we don't get to travel as much as I would like to, but I'm really glad that I've had those experiences. And then I think about fun places I want to take our family and do things. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's all our questions.
Great. Well, I love your program, and what you're doing is really neat. That's great. I'm so glad to hear that. I mean, do you have any questions about HaikuDeck? Like, you always wondered or wish you could do something?
Well, there was that co-editing.
We were wondering about. Sorry. We're actually wondering about co-editing, and if you think there'll be a future of co-editing similar to Google Docs, how you can have two people at the same time working.
Yeah, we have talked about that. A lot of people ask for that, so it's really difficult to pull it off. So it's definitely something we would like to do, but we also want to make sure we can do it well.
Right.
The workaround that we do here is, so for example, Lisa and we have a team HaikuDeck email that we both know the password to, and so sometimes she'll work on the deck, and then she'll say, do you want to take a look at it? And I'll log in with that email, and then I'll edit it. So it's not the same as like working on it exactly at the same time, but we do collaborate that way, which is pretty cool. But that real-time collaboration would be really cool, for sure. We've talked about that a lot. Any other ideas or things you wish or things you think are frustrating? Because I love to hear people's feedback.
No, I just think adding in the co-editing would really gear more towards students.
That's one thing I can think of.
That makes sense.
But otherwise, it's a really great program.
Yeah, we both
really
like it.
Thank you. Well, thank you for being our ambassadors at your school and putting out I love that you're doing these tutorials and the videos. It's really great. But if you ever have a question or you want to show me something you made, you can email me and send it to me. Just remind me. We're from Rocket's Help Desk.
We'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for taking the time out of your day.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you too. It's great to hang out with you. Have a good rest of your Friday.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.